Hello, friends. How is everyone's Friday night? Hope everyone is doing well. Decided to try a Bible reading tonight instead of in the daytime because I know a lot of people work and stuff, so sometimes doing it at night, more people can actually get on here and read with me and discuss, because that's a big part of this, and, wanting people to actually discuss things and look into them in a deeper way. So thank you all for showing up. Sorry, moving my mic. Showing up tonight, and we're gonna keep reading where we left off, which was Leviticus. Utah Outcast, hi! That's so awesome. I used to watch you guys all the time. Here. Yeah, so we're gonna continue in Leviticus and just read more about all the laws that God put out, and all the fun things the Israelites had to actually follow in the Bible. The last thing we read, I'm trying to remember what we read last time. We read about the different type of foods that they were allowed to eat, and how each one of those, there were certain foods that they couldn't eat and certain foods that they could eat, and that was really interesting to me, because I had always been told that they didn't eat pigs, but I didn't know that there were other things they didn't eat too. So I guess that was interesting to me. Hi, awoken one. I'm glad that people are here tonight. I like having people in the chat because I feel like I can talk to you guys more and interact and not just read and be by myself. Yeah. So we read that, and then we read about two of Aaron's sons who gave an offering to God, and they weren't supposed to give that offering to God, so he burned them to death, on the spot. So we learned about that too. But today we're going to do Leviticus 12 and 13, which are more fun regulations that God has put down into, what the Israelites have to do. So, oh, and this first one's fun because it's purification after childbirth. This one's for all the girls. All right. The Lord said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, a woman who becomes pregnant and gives birth to a son will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days, just as she is unclean during her monthly period. On the 8th day, the boy is to be circumcised." Nice. Then the woman must wait 33 days to be purified from her bleeding. She must not touch anything sacred or go to the sanctuary until the day her purification is over. If she gives birth to a daughter for 2 weeks, the woman will be unclean as during her period. Then she must wait 66 days to be purified from her bleeding. This is fun Friday night talking, huh? Bet you didn't think you'd be discussing this stuff. When the day of her purification for a son or daughter are over, she's to bring the priest to the entrance of the tent of meeting, a year-old lamb for burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a dove for a sin offering. He shall offer them before the Lord to make atonement for her, and then she will be ceremonially clean from her flow of blood. These are the regulations for the woman who gives birth to a boy or a girl. If she cannot afford a lamb, she is to bring 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, one for the burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement for her, and she will be clean. Okay. No, thank you. It's times like these I'm glad that I am living in the time I'm living in, and that I have this opportunity to, do what I want to do, and I don't have to follow these rules and regulations and be treated like an object as opposed to a person. Because I think the more I read about the Bible, oh God. Yeah, that's no thank you. Yeah, it's just, you look at some of these and you realize just how backward society was and how they treated women in such a horrible way that it just, it wasn't good for anybody. And, women didn't have the option to do anything else. This is their life. You were to be a wife and you were to be a mother, and that was it. And you're owned. You don't have, you go straight from your dad to your husband, and you're completely owned by whoever the male is over you. So I'm just glad that I don't live in that time period, and that I can, do this and speak out against religions that I think are harmful like this, and, do whatever other jobs I want to do in life and not have to be tied to these backwards ideas that just don't get women anywhere. Regulations about defiling skin diseases. This one should be fun too. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "When anyone has a swelling or a rash or a shiny spot on their skin that may be defiling skin disease, they must be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons who is a priest. The priest is to examine the sore on his skin, and if the hair in the sore has turned white, or the sore appears to be more than skin deep, it is a defiling skin disease. When the priest examines them, he should pronounce them ceremonially I can't say that word very well. Unclean. If the shiny spot on the on the skin is white but does not appear to be more than skin deep, and the hair in it has not turned white, the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them, and if he sees the sore is unchanged and has not spread in the skin, he's to isolate them for another 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them again, and if the sore has faded and has not spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is only a rash. They must wash their clothes, and they will be clean. But if the rash does spread in their skin, after they show themselves to the priest to be pronounced clean, they must appear before the priest again. The priest is to examine them, and if the rash has spread in the skin, he shall pronounce them unclean. This is a defiling skin disease. Aaron's health care. Except I don't think they would have been white in that time, so I don't think that would really work. You do have to wonder, I guess back then they didn't have, medical doctors, so, the priests were, those people that you would have to go to actually figure out what they, needed to figure out, but they didn't have any medical training. This is all stuff that somebody made up, because they have absolutely no idea how that stuff actually worked. And, the whole germ theory things and stuff. I did a whole animated video on my channel about, Jesus not knowing about germ theory and how that really probably hurt a lot of people. And, when he tells the people in the temple that they don't have to wash their hands before, or that his disciples don't have to wash their hands before eating because it's only a purifying ritual. It's not a ritual for actual, cleaning yourself and making sure that you have good hygiene so you don't die from germs. Yeah, that kind of backfires because it makes Jesus look like he doesn't know anything about germs, which, if he actually lived and was a real person during that time, I don't think he would have known about germs. So he was just going with what he already knew, and that's kind of scary because he was giving people bad advice about things that could actually save their lives and not kill them. When anyone has a defiling skin disease, they must be brought to the priest. The priest is to examine them. If there's a white swelling in the skin, that has turned the hair white, and if there is raw flesh in the swelling, it is a chronic skin disease, and the priest shall pronounce them unclean. He's not to isolate them, because they are already unclean. If the disease breaks out all over the skin, and so far as the priest can see, it covers all of the skin of the affected person from head to toe, the priest is to examine them. And if the disease has covered their whole body, he shall pronounce them clean. Since it has all turned white, they are clean. But whenever raw flesh appears on them, they will be unclean. When the priest sees the raw flesh, I'm tripping over my words. Okay. He shall pronounce them unclean. The raw flesh is unclean. They have a defiling disease. If the raw flesh changes and turns white, they must go to the priest. The priest is to examine them, and if the sores have turned white, the priest shall pronounce the affected person clean. Then they will be clean. Okay. When someone has a boil on their skin and it heals, and in its place where the boil was a white swelling or a reddish white spot appears, they must present themselves to the priest. The priest is to examine it, and if it appears to be more than skin deep, and the hair in it has turned white, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease that has broken out where the boil was. This is some, nasty medical stuff here. Didn't think we'd get this, in-depth on certain, skin diseases and boils and stuff in the Bible. But when the priest examines, there is no white hair on it, and it is more than skin deep and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. If it's spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling disease. But if the spot is unchanged and has not spread, it's only a scar from the boil, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. When someone has a burn on their skin and a reddish white or white spot appears in the raw flesh of the burn, the priest is to examine the spot, and if the hair in it has turned white and it appears to be more than skin deep, it's a defiling disease that has broken out on the burn. Ugh. The priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. But if the priest examines it and there's no white hair in the spot, and if it's not more than skin deep and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them, and if it's spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. If, however, the spot is unchanged and has not spread in the skin, but has faded, it is swelling from the burn, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. It's only a scar from the burn. If a man or woman has a sore on their head or chin, the priest is to examine the sore. If it appears to be more than skin deep, and the hair in it is yellow and thin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It's a defiling skin disease on the head or chin. But if, when the priest examines the sore, it does not seem to be more than skin deep, oh God, this is just getting more and more nasty as we go on. Okay. And there's no black hair in it, then the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it has not spread, and there's no yellow hair in it, and it does not appear to be more than skin deep, then the man or woman must shave themselves, except for the affected area, and the priest is to keep them isolated for another 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it has not spread in the skin and appears to be no more than skin deep, the priest shall pronounce the man or woman clean. They must wash their clothes, and they will be clean. But if the sore does spread in the skin after they are pronounced clean, the priest is to examine them, and if he finds that the sore has spread in the skin, he does not have to look for yellow hair. They are unclean. If, however, the sore is unchanged, so far as the priest can see, and if a black hair has grown in it, the affected person is healed. They are clean, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. Man, I would not want to be a priest back then. I think about, medical doctors and stuff, and I'm really, really glad we have them, but, listening to all of these, just, burns and raw skin and hair and all this stuff you have to look at, that's not my thing, man. I would not be able to do that. When a man or woman has a white spot on the skin, the priest is to examine them, and if the spots are dull white, it's a harmless rash that has broken out on the skin, and they are clean. A man who has lost his hair and is bald is clean. If he's lost his hair from the front of his scalp and his bald forehead, he is clean. But if he has a reddish white sore on his bald head or forehead, it is a defiling disease breaking out on his head or forehead. The priest is to examine him, and if the swollen sore on his head or forehead is reddish white, like a defiling skin disease, the man is diseased and unclean. The priest shall pronounce him unclean because of the sore on his head. Oh, God. Tons of Mice is just keeping up on all of these for me. We're going to have slogans for everything. Anyone with such a defiling disease must wear torn clothes, let their hair be unkempt, cover the lower half of their face, and cry out, "Unclean, unclean." As long as they have the disease, they remain unclean. They must live alone, and they must live outside of the camp. Well, that really sucks. I mean, what if it's just a pimple? What if you had a pimple on your face, and they made you leave, like, the whole group because you have a pimple, and the priest has decided that it's not just a pimple, like, he's like, no, you're unclean because you have a pimple. You have to go live outside of the camp and not be around people. That's gross too, because I know, like, outside of the camp is where they, like, take all the garbage and all the burnt offerings and stuff they talked about. So I feel like outside of the camp would have been, like, their dump. So you'd have to go, like, live in the dump. That just sucks, man. Regulations about defiling molds. As for any fabric that is spoiled with a defiling mold, or any woolen or linen clothing, any woven or knitted material of linen or wool, any leather, or anything made of leather, if the affected area in the fabric, the leather, the woven, or the knitted material, or the leather article is greenish or reddish, it's defiling mold, and must be shown to the priest. The priest is to examine the affected area and isolate the article for 7 days. On the 7th day, and if the mold has spread to the fabric, the woven or the leather, whatever or knitted material of wool or linen, or any leather article that has been spoiled, because the defiling mold is persistent, the article must be burned. I don't know about, like, is burning mold okay? Or would that, like, put stuff into the atmosphere that's not good for people to breathe? I feel like that would not be a great way to get rid of mold. But I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know much about, severe mold or anything. But, today we can just rip out the part that has mold or just bleach it or something and it'll go away. But I don't know what burning it would do and if it would be harmful to the people around the article that has mold and it's burning. But if the priest is examining it and the mold has not spread in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or the leather article, he shall order that the spoiled article be washed. Then he is to isolate it for another 7 days. After the article has been washed, the priest is to examine it again. And if the mold has not changed its appearance, even though it has not spread, it is unclean. Burn it, no matter which side of fabric has been spoiled. If when the priest examines it, the mold has faded after the article has been washed, he's to tear the spoiled part out of the fabric, the leather, or the woven or knitted material. But if it reappears in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or in the leather article, it is a spreading mold. Whatever has the mold must be burned. Any fabric, woven, or knitted material, or any leather article that has been washed and is red of mold must be washed again. Then it will be clean. These are the regulations concerning defiling molds in woolen or linen clothing, woven or knitted material, or any leather article, for pronouncing them clean and unclean. Oops, sorry. Yeah. Lots of rules and regulations. I feel like that's all Leviticus is very much just the rules and regulations of everything you have to do, but it's just, it almost seems tedious that there's just so many things you have to remember. now I need to like look up mold stuff because I feel like I don't know that much about mold, and I don't know if what they did with mold was like good or if that was a bad thing and could have caused more problems for them in the future. But at the same time, I mean, these are people who are sacrificing animals and have blood all over their altars, and they're burning carcasses and stuff all day. So I feel like living back then would not have smelled pleasant at all with all the things that they had to deal with. And especially like if they're in the desert and they're burning all this stuff, like it's probably really hot and nasty, and people are probably sweaty and gross, and yeah, and they didn't have like bleach and stuff back then. They always used, well, I know in the Middle Ages they used like urine to make things like white because it made linens white again. But I don't know what they actually used in like the Bible times to like do that kind of stuff. I mean, it's possible they could have used urine, but I don't know. It is weird, some of those regulations. And just thinking about it and thinking about like, you didn't have a doctor back then. If you got a disease, like you had to go to the religious leader in your town and tell them what was going on, and then they basically just have to take whatever they've been taught and use that to figure out what kind of disease you have. Which, I think about the medical community today, and there's like so many different diseases and different ways people can get sick and hurt. And I mean, that's why a lot of people call it practicing medicine, because sometimes they can't figure out what's wrong. So just making, I don't know, this baseline of where they say it's wrong, or they say, my brain just went off track. Okay. This baseline of how they think like diseases and stuff work, as opposed to actually like looking at it and figuring out where it would have come from or how they got it. But even now we have people who are in hospitals and stuff and we don't even know what's wrong with them. So I guess that's an interesting take, is just looking at it and going, is it possible it could be something else? Like, or are we just gonna follow this book that says it's this thing and we're just gonna follow it to do whatever God said to do with it? It's very interesting. Tons of Mice is just making me laugh over here because he's got all these slogans for all these new products that he's apparently gonna shill out for Bible stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I need to like talk to a medical person now too and be like, what do you think about this? Like, is this something that could actually be bad for not just the environment, but for the people around other people? It is interesting too though, because later in the Bible they talk about like leprosy and stuff, and they kind of know what leprosy is to a point, but they don't know how to fix it, and so they always put those people outside of the city and like do their best to not let them around other people because it was contagious and they didn't want other people to get it. So I guess in some ways they knew a little bit about medical stuff, but I think there's a lot of things that we know today and we would look at that and go, well, why didn't you do this? But they didn't have that technology back then. Although I feel like the Egyptians had a lot more I don't know, like the Egyptians, like they actually like mummified people and stuff, so you have to wonder like if they had any special medical techniques and stuff back then. But I also don't know how much interaction, the people who wrote the Bible had with actual Egypt during that time. And I also don't know, like, who wrote the Bible. Like, these verses were supposedly written by Moses, but we don't even have proof that Moses was a real person, so. But the fact that these things exist and that, these are things people actually, like, stuck to because, they had the tabernacle and eventually they had the temple. So, the priests still did their stuff in the temple that they did in the tabernacle, even if those other people from the past weren't, real people or anything. We have their writings that they followed because they still followed this stuff when they still had the temple age and stuff too, so. I just have to wonder, like, who decided to write all these things down and who decided that these are the things that they think God is telling them to do. But I think that gets back into the medical stuff too, because we don't know what's going on inside of people's brains, and we don't know how people think. And, in a time when medicine wasn't a big deal and people didn't know about certain things in your brain and how it works, people could have had, like, schizophrenia or all kinds of stuff, and instead of attributing it to their brain malfunctioning, they attribute it to a god. Moses was interesting too, because when we were reading about him in Exodus, I remember, like, his name is a pun. It means, like, drawn from the water or something. And I always thought that was funny because it's like nobody would name their son, like, a pun name like that unless it was, like, a story. And, a lot of that story is ripped off from, oh, what's his name? Now I can't remember. There was another famous person that had a story like that where he was put in a basket and, like, went down the river and stuff. So I have to remember that now. Yeah. It is interesting when you look at other religions though too, or either just, like, other cultures, because a lot of the cultural stuff around the time that the Bible was written, like, has gotten into the Bible. Oh, whoa. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Awoken One knows probably a lot more. I think he knows more about, like, the Jewish side of things, because I don't know as much about that. I'm still, like, learning a lot of that stuff, but Babylon to destroy them. That's scary. I don't know how much of the Bible would have actually been written if they had been destroyed, if they had been completely conquered and wiped out. What was I saying before? I was talking about, like, the different cultures around them and how, if you look at those different cultures and stuff, you can see, certain aspects of those cultures being taken in by the Israelites. And I think that gives you, like, a broader picture of, like, just life in general in that time, even if it wasn't, exactly as they say it was. They might have changed things or embellished things, but just looking at those different cultures and seeing how each one of them affected the Israelites and how they took certain cultural ideas with them. I think that's an interesting thing too, is just looking at that kind of stuff and seeing how that affects, the people around. And, I think that, today we're the same way. Like, we take certain things in our culture seriously. And I just think about like nostalgia is a huge thing in our culture right now, and that's because like all of us kids who grew up in the 90s, like they know we're the parents of kids now, and that we're gonna want to relive our childhoods. Well, even people without kids will want to relive our childhood in a way that is meaningful to us, but then if we have kids, is meaningful to our kids too. And so I see that a lot with like TV and stuff today, because they're bringing back that nostalgia and just making you feel like, oh, like I liked this when I was a kid, so I'm gonna like this again. I feel like that's kind of an impact that we have today, but it's kind of the same with their culture, is that there were certain things that they clung on to because of their culture. And I think animal sacrifice was just a big thing in general. Not just animal sacrifice, though, because like there were other tribes around them too that had human sacrifices. I mean, people were sacrificing their children and babies and stuff to their gods because they wanted to be safe or have better crops, or a lot of those ideas. It is interesting though when I think about that, because there's a lot of very similar things from like when you look at like Egypt and the Middle East, and then you also look at like South America and how you know, they did a lot of ritualistic sacrifice in order to please the gods, and they built pyramids, and it just makes you wonder like how much like culturally were they affected by that, or over time people just realized that these were things that they could do, and they just ended up doing them. you know I think that's a big part of just looking at history in the past, and just looking at, I don't know, anything in general, and seeing how humans can think and reason and create things even on different continents that are very similar. Yeah. I'm like starting to wear out. It's getting late, and I'm just like, ugh. When you've been up since 7 a.m. Oh my god. Oh, tons of mice. He keeps me entertained all night. Yeah, if you guys think of anything else. I can't really think of anything else. I'm starting to wind down in my brain. Sometimes I wish I had more to talk about. But some of these verses, it's hard to talk about, because it's like you want to expand on it, but there's only like so much you can expand on it. So yeah. I am excited. I started doing a reaction video today. I think it's going to be a two-parter because it was really long, and it was way longer than I thought it was going to be, because I think it's like over an hour. So I'm kind of excited for that. I was working on that earlier today because I wanted to get more fun content out for everybody. So yeah, it's going to be a reaction video to a Christian who tells other Christians why they shouldn't celebrate Halloween. And I was going to make it all one, but I think it's going to be a two-parter. But I'm kind of excited about that, and I'm hoping that people like it. I'm just trying to find like a good balance between, my animations and my live streams, and, me just having regular videos. And honestly, I like the animations because they're fun to make, and I write scripts for them, and I'm much better at talking with scripts. I know some people are, better at being on here and just, some people can naturally just say things on here and can keep a conversation going, but I'm not a natural speaker like that. Like if I have I say like a lot. I figured that one out. I'm trying to stop that. But now all I can think about is that word in my head. Yeah, writing scripts, it's easier for me to write a script and read it, and it just sounds better, I feel like. But, I also want to live stream because I want to do like the Bible readings and be able to talk to you guys and boring and sleepy now. Yeah, just talk to people and get that dialogue and that conversation about the crazy stories or the boring stories or the gross stories like how you're supposed to look at boils and pimples and burns. Yeah. I would love your content, Awoken One. You would be amazing. Like, I've learned so much from just reading, like, your stuff that you sent me, and I absolutely love it. And, yeah. I actually made a video the Awoken One sent me. Like, he has like notes and stuff for like the Bible stuff that he does, and he sent me one, and I actually made an animation of it, and I think it turned out pretty good. But yeah, I've read a lot of his stuff, and he is amazing. He knows a lot, and I've learned a lot from just reading what he has sent me, and I think you would make amazing content, and I think I would definitely be interested in that because I'm not someone who knows a lot about like the whole Jewish side of things, and I feel like you have more of a deeper connection with that kind of stuff. I'm slowly learning over time. Oh, thank you. I'm slowly learning over time, what Jews believed and what Christians believed and how things were twisted and how things were changed over time, but it's not, I don't know, it's one of those things that like you can study it forever, and but it's not always going to stay in your brain. I'm not one of those people that like remembers everything I read, but I try to do my best on what I do know, and especially doing this is like I don't want to be on here just saying whatever and being like I don't know what I'm talking about, because I know a lot more than I think I like present here, but I'm just not great at the presenting live stuff. I'm much better at presenting with a script, but I've talked to other YouTubers and Twitchers. I call them Twitchers, I don't even know. Other people who do like live streams, and they're like, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. So maybe in the future I'll have better talking points and things like that, but I'll still keep like creating my other content too because it's really important to me. Oh, tons of mice. You just pledged on my Patreon. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's pretty cool. You're my second Patreon subscriber. I don't even know what those are. Patreon patron. There we go. But yeah, I want to be one of those people that like has the knowledge to back up what I actually am talking about, and I don't remember everything, but I'm definitely learning every day. And I think it's one of those things when you weren't raised, atheist, if you were actually raised in the church, whoa, and you can see both sides of it. Nice. You can see both sides of, because I know for me, like, I can see the Christian side and I can see the atheist side of things. But when I look at the Jewish side of things, that makes things a lot clearer for me too. And I think that's, at least from my perspective, it's important to know those different perspectives because it can really help change minds and, have people see those differences that can, get the wheels in their head start turning and actually have them to start you think I could talk actually start critically thinking about, not just their religion, but other religions and other perspectives and how that can really change the way that you see, even your religion. Because a lot of Christians have no idea what the Jews actually believe. A lot of Christians have no idea what a lot of that Old Testament stuff even means because, they're just told in church, this means this and this means this. And, they don't go and look at it and actually, talk to, Jewish people and say, well, what do you think about this? Or what have you been taught about this? And I think it's the same with atheists, is that people don't come up and they're like, oh, well, what do you think about this as an atheist or whatever? Instead, they just, I don't know. I don't think everyone judges us, but I think a lot of people just judge us because of our labels, and instead of looking at those different perspectives and seeing it as a good thing, because you can see those different perspectives and it can open your mind to different ideas and can change your mind or not. But at least if you have those there, you can back up what you're saying. And I think that's really important to me, is having those things to back up what, why I came to the conclusion that I came to and why I'm an atheist. But I also like learning about religion. So learning about the Jewish, idea of, like the old one said, no one knows about the Jewish Messiah, the actual one, as opposed to what Christians have claimed the Messiah was going to be, or who they said the Messiah was. Those are things that are important, I think, to know if you're gonna be out there in the world and talking about this kind of stuff. But I know there's a lot of people that have a lot more information in their brains and a lot more ability to do other things. Because, I give major props to, all the atheists who can debate people, because that is not something I would ever be able to do. And, I'm more of a storyteller and more of a, I want to be creative and I want to help other people who might want to come out of the church or might have doubts or whatever. But I want to do it in a creative way, in a way that's not gonna make people feel like they're judged or that leaving is wrong, or, I want them to feel like our community is something that they will be welcomed into, and that, we're all on different paths in life and we all have our different journeys that we have to take, but just having people there, even just online, I know for me that was a huge part of knowing that I'm not alone and knowing that there are other people just like me out there. And that kind of made me want to do this, because I want to be one of those people to help people and help them see that there is an amazing community here, that everyone supports everybody, and these people are great people, and you don't have to fear, being friends with us or whatever, or being part of this group, because we're willing to step up and help, because we've been there too. A lot of us have come out of the church, and a lot of us have come out of not great situations because of that. And I think having any community is important, but I think especially for people coming out of the church, they really need that. So it's a big reason why I do this and why it's important to me. And there's a lot more that goes into, being a content creator too. People just don't Analyze and discuss. Maybe. I do want to like go through the whole Bible though. That's kind of like, because I've never actually read it all the way through, so that was kind of what sparked this, is that this kind of gives me accountability to read through the Bible, which is hilarious because like I grew up in church and they're always like, get an accountability partner and have someone, make sure that you read your Bible every day. And when I was in the church, I wanted nothing to do with that. And now it's like, oh no, I'm going to have accountability online with all my friends and read the Bible. So yeah, I don't know. Do summaries. I probably could do that for like my actual like YouTube channel where I do like my animations and stuff, because I feel like that would be easier to do for that, because then I can pick the portions that I want to actually do and then animate or just talk about them depending on how I feel. Yeah. But I do want to read through the whole Bible. So that's kind of what prompted this and got me on this write fiction with it. On this path of coming on here and reading every day. But yeah, that's actually a good idea. I might have to start doing like the summary stuff for some of my other videos now. Now I'm getting all these creative ideas in my head. It's a blessing and a curse, right? Isn't that what Monk said? It's a blessing and a curse. That's how I feel being a creative person, because I always have all these ideas and I want to just do them. But, I only have so much time in a day to actually get what I need out to actually, edit and animate and all that. So I guess that's why a lot of people have like teams of people when they like do, I guess not everybody does, but a lot of the more famous YouTubers and people that are like online presence, whatever, like they have whole teams of people that like do all the extra stuff for them, like the editing and stuff, because it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time. But it's not, if it's something you actually love to do, it doesn't really phase you like how much time and stuff it actually takes. It's just the fact that you don't always have the time that you want to do those things. So, and I'm trying to do more because I like doing this, and I think because I'm a creative person, it's a good outlet for my creativity to be not just seen, but just for me to put it out into the world, I guess, because that's part of who I am, is being a creative person and being an atheist activist, and putting those two things together has made this whatever this is I'm doing. So but I enjoy it, and I enjoy talking to all of the people on here, and just oh my goodness, that's a lot of work. I was gonna say, I feel like I don't have a lot of time in the day, because like, yes, I'm working, and yes, I'm also a mom of 2 kids, and I have a house and all kinds of other things that I have, errands and all the things that just go with all of that. And it just seems like it adds all up and it takes away so much time. But sometimes I sacrifice sleep and stuff just so I can get some stuff out and be the creative person that I am. So maybe that's what I have to do. It's fine. I enjoy it. And the little time that I have to actually work on those things it's not just being productive. It's like, it lets a side of me out that doesn't get to come out as much if I'm not, doing this. Because I've been a creative person all my life, and I think this just makes it easier for me to do that. Because, like, I didn't go to school for, like, art or animating or any of that stuff. But now that I look back, I'm like, I probably should have done something more artistic. But no. I chose something that was not gonna get me anywhere in life. I chose youth ministry. Isn't that exciting? That's okay. You know what? I've learned over time, and, sometimes you don't always. Oh my gosh, a whole year ago? That's crazy. I feel like I've read some of it, and I've read like some chapters, but I remember when I was a teenager, I was obsessed with Revelation. Like, I don't know why. I was obsessed with the end of the world and obsessed with Jesus coming back. Maybe because, like, I was raised in a Pentecostal church that was very, like, Jesus is coming back. Jesus is coming back. I mean, like I said before, we actually had, like, youth parties where we would sit and watch the Left Behind movies. Like, all the high schoolers and all the junior hires would all go to church and watch those movies for, like, a movie night. And it freaked me out, man. It really did. I didn't think I was going to live to graduate high school because they kept telling me, all these things are happening and it's all lining up with prophecy, and, Jesus is going to come back any day, so, don't worry about not graduating high school or getting married or having kids or any of that, because he's going to come back and you're just going to be in heaven. Which didn't happen. And now I'm 33 and I have kids and I'm married, and now I know that it's not going to happen. So my life has definitely changed since then, but yeah. I'm getting sleepy, man. I've almost been on here for like an hour. I'm never on here this long, except if I play video games. I haven't done that in a while. Anyways, I think I'm gonna call it a night soon because I am getting tired. Daniel 7. Is that the Son of Man one in Daniel 7? Where he's like, he says the Son of Man's gonna come on the clouds? I feel like I need to read Daniel, because every time I talk to the Awoken one, he always talks about Daniel, and I haven't read all of Daniel, so I feel like I need to, like, deep dive into Daniel more. Because I think that would help me see a lot more of the Jewish perspective of, like, what the Jewish Messiah was supposed to be. Yes, yeah. See, like, I know things, but sometimes they get mixed up in my head, so it's like I just gotta remember, what certain verses were and what they actually are talking about. Anyways, thank you all for your amazing support, and for, the ones who just joined my Patreon. Thank you so much for that, and all of you here who support me just by being here and talking to me and, spending time reading the Bible and learning about things. I very much enjoy this, and it was nice to do this at night when more people could actually be on here, because I like talking to people and, getting that dialogue. So thank you all so much. I won't be back on tomorrow because it's Saturday, huh? Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I should be back on Monday. I've been trying to do my live streams at 1 every day, but I might start doing them at a different time, because not a lot of people are on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But it's easy for me because it's when my kids are in school, so sometimes I just gotta figure out what's best to work with. But I don't know, we'll figure all that out as time goes by. I'm gonna go to bed before I pass out. Thank you all for coming, and I hope to see whoever can make it on Monday, for the next chapter of Leviticus. So, bye guys.